What's the food that got you the sickest? For me, it was Ethiopian food. It was amazing, but it was deadly.
You're all going to tell me this is my own fault, and I know. I've been telling myself that for 6 years. Bought it from Safeway.
That's your own
It wasn't
fault,
late.
buddy.
It couldn't have been that. Fuck you. It couldn't have been that old. All right. It looked decent. So I ate an orange chicken and rice bowl, and then I went home and shit myself and called out of work the next day.
I tried sushi for the first time and I was super excited, but after that I remember like vomiting a bunch, and I didn't eat sushi again for like 5 years. And now, now it's one of those things I crave all the time. So
got this amazing sandwich, coming back down, going through these cliffside swerves. All of a sudden, bubble rumbles in the tummy. I'm either gonna hack up in this car, or you gotta let me out for a couple minutes. We're stuck in traffic. All of a sudden, as I thought I was gonna start puking, traffic starts moving. And then this car rolls by playing the George Lopez television theme song, the totally killed the mood for me. Like, much how I can't pee if someone's next to me, I couldn't puke now because I'm like, car's leaving, there's a George Lopez theme song music's playing, and now I can't ever eat a fucking pastrami sandwich ever again because I'm traumatized. And speaking of traumatized, welcome to the Real Stupid Review Show. I am Gerardo here with CODEY, IZZY, and Nick. We're Eddie-less, but I think spiritually. Someone will drop something in the background, so someone will burp.
So you just do this the whole recording?
Yeah, just have things. If you have crickets, you could just
let me go get some pots and pans real quick.
Yeah. Eddie, fuck you.
We love it in a loving way. We're here for the very brutal mandate by our Lord and Savior CODEY.
We watched Incendies by Denis Villeneuve. It's pronounced similar to the way I just said it. It is a movie about two twins whose mother dies and leaves them each 3 letters.
Je sais que c'est très inhabituel, mais ta mère était pas folle, Jeanne.
This is something that could have been based 2,000 years ago, and it could have been based 28 years in the future. It's somehow so timeless that it almost threw me off when someone pulled out a cell phone. This is a movie that is very cleanly split into nearly opposite stories that are so perfectly woven together to create one vision. It's so like steeped in real world information of things that were happening in the Middle East in the 70s and 80s that just add all of this depth to it. Very, very good and brutal, and shows you so much about just brutality in a way that is very hard to do on film. It is sort of countered by this intense theme of family and connection and like togetherness, but also somehow hopeful ending. It's really good.
I will say the part of this movie that is very eye-opening and relevant, and I think we said this with Do the Right Thing, is Lebanon still has a lot going on in the country right now. A lot of the things that happen in the movie are still happening. Venezuela.
We're all gonna be. I want to say we all like that.
We gotta keep it like that.
The guy who
Venezuela. I want to keep it that way.
49. All right, we'll stick with that guy. I'm not a huge fan of his movie style. He does this super slow burn movies. They're good. You're into a very beautiful cinematic experience. Everything is on purpose. The red herrings through the movie are some of the best I've seen. I really like the whole execution of the film. If this was more of a American style family, and it's like, you have a brother. Oh, cool. Well, if he ever reaches out, I'll know that it's real. Okay, cool. I never really felt compelled to think that that's a self-discovery thing. Hey, I'll look him up on Facebook. Oh, he's not there. Did the best I could. That's the selfish part of being an American, I think, is we're like, we're going to get Krababalus Michael to help us out here and go through this like dark tunnel of scary shit to find any answer whatsoever. I wasn't as
Michael pull.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sold on the whole story. Not my kind of cinematic experience. I still respected it. Definitely would recommend checking it out. I think it's relevant. I don't think it's something that will be, hey, did you see Incendies? Oh, dude, you're missing out. Like, I don't think it'll be that kind of viewing for anybody.
This is the second Villeneuve movie I watched this month, the other being Polytechnique. He's always been a director like I really liked. I think I've said this a few times. I know the CODEY. I was like, I think he's like a better Christopher Nolan, or like, I guess, more well-composed Christopher Nolan that executes things. I guess when I say that, he manages to put some of the more big blockbuster Hollywood quirks and fuse them with some of the more like older, like artistic side of things. I like the themes a lot. You know, they are super relevant to what's going on now. I particularly like the family themes. It's not for like the faint of heart. I would say not for like not in the sense of like gore. It's kind of like knowing like seeing the monster always weakens the monster, like inside of like a horror film. And I think sometimes the implication of what's going on is a lot stronger and lingers like a phantom. It's kind of cool to know that this was based off of a play. I think almost everything is identical besides like maybe like one small difference near the end. I think for overall, it's well put together. I think it's still, I'm not going to say the word choppy, but in comparison to like some of his other works, like there's some like parts that have loose threads. I also want to give them a huge shout out for using You and Who's Army and Like Spinning Plates by Radiohead. As a huge Radiohead fan, that was a very pleasant surprise.
This is one of the most fucked up 23andMe Ancestry.com commercials. The detective work, that's what really made this movie for me. The way they kind of omit certain things or they kind of phrase certain things. It's like, oh, well, this guy definitely knew the full information and he could have told you there and then and there, but it's like for this Hollywood building of the plot to give us this big climax. Are you literally
counting? Are you counting the director assuming that you can understand something without it being spoon fed to you as a plot hole?
No, not a plot hole. They were omitting that. No, but like his ability to kind of Hollywood it up to this like very satisfying climax while still having these very human moments. And you, CODEY, you talked about the violence where there's no glory in death. Everything feels cold. Everything's so matter of fact. When people die, there's no swelling music. There's no bombastic thing. It's like, nope, they're just fucking dead. It gave me this double whammy of emotion throughout the movie, especially in the ending. Kind of an analogy. It's like, all right, you have a jigsaw puzzle, you put it together. You're like, yeah, I did it. And the final picture, it's like, it says you're adopted. And you're like, oh, what? So it's like awesome. / what the fuck. And I mean, the fact that it was able to achieve that, it's definitely of note.
I think I throw this word around too much. I got to find a synonym for spectacle, but the lack of spectacle in the tragedies in real life, when someone gets shot in the head, it's brutal, but it also looks like easy. These like really tragic and brutal and horrifying moments, we're not left to stew in them. It's actually done very tastefully in a way that puts you into the pain of it. What?
It's just, you said, you know, we're not meant to stew in that, and it's done tastefully, and I thought of a tasty stew.
Delicious.
Like, he meant
it. But like, you're not left to sit in it, to marinate in it. Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of it's handled in a way where it's not rubbing it in your face. It doesn't feel like a Clint Eastwood movie or whoever makes all those movies about every tragedy that happens in America with Mark Wahlberg in them and shit. Like it feels it feels thoughtful.
The little bit of confusion that I had, probably half an hour, 45 minutes in, when we jump in between different timelines. So surprisingly enough, the mom and the daughter looked really similar too. So I was like really kind of like watching this and like they look a little different, but maybe she's traveling. That's why she looks different. You know,
I had that too. I had the first time I jumped to
great casting in that regard.
To Nawal, I was like, holy shit, she's been looking for this fucking dad for so long.
Nothing ever came as a surprise to me, you know? Like right now, when we're talking about like scenes and shifting, here, while albeit by itself, it's pretty cool. The scene where we see the sniper kill the kid, that comes out of nowhere with these people we don't know. to show maybe you could say, oh, it's showing the state of the city in this random part of the city we're never going to go to again. I think there is something in the pacing and the editing when we're going from scene to scene that felt kind of jarring, and not jarring as in like here's like a flash of something else. I don't know. Something was taking me out of it every once in a while, and it was hard to pinpoint what it was, but I felt it.
I think the core detective story, like you could have applied that on any other Hollywood movie. This, again, this war religious backdrop is what separates it. You know, that's what adds the fucking that special MSG depression flavor.
MSG's delicious.
Yeah, it's depressing for all the calories. You know.
Have you guys ever had the spicy sweet chili flavored Doritos? They just taste like MSG.
Who else?
I have MSG like in my cupboard, and I just tried MSG, and there was no like thinking about the flavor, and then decide. I was like, oh, the purple bag Doritos. Yeah, okay, that's what they taste like.
Are you just gonna end
like,
up on my
like,
addiction, just eating MSG, Cody? Like, it's just the beginning of your fucking downfall.
That was once, and then I went back to the Doritos. It felt real. And speaking of real, Gerardo.
Let's reeling it in. Whoa, you got me.
Incendies is a visually beautiful and contextually fucking horrifying movie that blends so many different elements, and there's intense pain and hatred, but also intense love. It is not the actual content of the film that sets it apart. It is how well that it's executed. I think it's evident when you look at Villeneuve's other work that this is one of his earlier movies, at least after his hiatus. But overall, it is very compelling. It's saddening. It's thought-provoking. It is brutal when it needs to be. It's tender when it needs to be. 4 out of 5.
It's a movie that's definitely not in my sandbox. But that being said, I still thought it was very good. I enjoyed it. The flow was a little slow. The burn was painful, but that doesn't make a movie bad and doesn't make me rate a movie low. It makes me just bored. But it was a good movie, though, overall. Once it gets towards the end, it starts building up and you understand what's going on. And you understand like the real events behind everything and the journey of everybody. Granted, it's not Goonies, but it's still a wonderful film. 3.5 stars.
I think this is a very well put together like movie for the most part. It didn't really do much for me. It disappeared from my head pretty soon after. Maybe it could have something to do with the fact that I've watched a lot of shit that tackles the same subjects, and this just to me felt lackluster in that regard, or that I was always being pulled out of it because of something that was going on. It is a hard one. I wanted to say I'm between a 3.5 and a 4, but I think my heart's leaning towards a 3.5.
So overall, I think that the structure might have been pretty simple, but the way they dressed it up with the war backdrop and all the small details they put into the crafting, it did put it above something that is a standard Hollywood film. It got me to ask a lot of personal questions about myself. It's still like anyone can really see this. It's more approachable, but it still leaves you thinking. So that's definite 5 out of 5 out of 5. For me, now it's Cody's bits of recommendation, but he's not here, so it's Izzy's bits of recommendation. No, Nick's bits of recommendation.
Nick goes after Cody.
I'm Melvin, the horror master. He does a lot of custom horror artwork. He did one for me. I didn't ask him to. He just does it for the fun of it. It seems like he's from Sweden. I really was impressed by that. The other one is another reviewer, Moonbear Reviews. I love the banter. It's very enjoyable to see his take on it. Especially with everybody kind of going back and forth on ideas and stuff like that. It's good to see people like concretely, no, I don't like it, or yes, I like it.
Danger 5 came out, I don't remember, like 2010 or something, and is in the style of a TV show that came out in like the 60s about like international super spies taking down Hitler. It's slightly problematic in a way that just evokes the way that things were actually like problematic back in whatever time this is based on. It's fucking delightful. I love it. Another one of my favorite shows is a sketch comedy series about relationships called Hot Date. There's a little bit of a through line, but for the most part, it's just funny skits, observational comedy, all that kind of thing about like stereotypical real life couples. And the second season takes place entirely in New Orleans, where I just got back from. The place is amazing. I hadn't been on vacation in so long. I'm so glad I chose New Orleans. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that watching that show and thinking that New Orleans looks fucking awesome wasn't a factor. So check those out.
A debut by new Korean director Kim Yong-hoon called The Beast Clawing at Straws. There is a Louis Vuitton bag full of a fuck ton of money. There are some gangsters. There is a guy who works at a sauna, and there is a lady who wants her husband dead. How do they all relate to this Louis Vuitton bag? Watch and find out. And I think both of these are on Hulu. It's called Support the Girls by Andrew Bujalski. You guys said double whammy earlier. That's the name of this restaurant that she manages. It's basically Hooters. I've watched movies that involve like the restaurant business or like regular people working like waiting, but I didn't really care about waiting. It's like a really shitty representation of like what people in like regular people are like, and this kind of does it really well. Like it's funny, but it's also kind of sad. A French animated film called The Girl Without Hands by Sébastien Ladenbach. I don't know if everyone else is gonna love it the same way, because the animation is very minimalistic. It's like you take all the detail away, like all the fine detail, and have like these brush strokes. Like the kinetic energy of the movie is all there, but the details are stripped away and like just made in these like brush strokes, and it feels very much like an old folktale.
This whole thing here. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Nick. I think you might hop on this post review, but probably not. I don't know. But thank him anyway, just in case. And we'll see you guys real soon.
Goodbye, everybody.
Make porn. Just don't try to disguise it as literally anything else. It wasn't good porn. It was fucking like one of the worst Skinamax level fucking shot things in the world. But by comparison, they were like, yeah, this action scene, I don't know, just put it on a tripod. We'll fucking put it over here. Yo, this titty though, let me get this close up. Let me do like a panic shot over here, you know? Let me get a 360